This is Professor Milich. I'll be going over ethics of network communications relating to privacy, security, and access in the digital age. In the introduction, the digital revolution and global connectivity that has happened has allowed many individuals and companies around the world to access digital information and be connected. This is also a double-edged sword of network communications because there are certain responsibilities that companies, governments, individuals in their own right are expected to maintain. We're going to look at an overview of key ethical challenges that can arise. The foundation of modern communication includes an evolution of digital networks, the current state of global connectivity, and the importance of it in our daily lives, whether we're using it for personal communication or for work purposes. It has become a critical part of our day to day. The data economy. Personal data as a commodity that's being sold and leveraged by companies. It brings a lot of value to them. Data collection practices, oftentimes people aren't even aware that their data is being utilized by companies, that they may be signing up for a membership or something like that, or to be part of a newsletter, and that company then sells their data and their information. And then the monetization of user information, which can be even the movements that somebody makes within an application or the preferences that they have while using a certain application. Privacy in the digital age. The definition of digital privacy, the types of personal data that are at risk, and the current privacy challenges that exist. Privacy threats. There's data breaches, identity theft, and surveillance concerns. Usually in data breaches, we see that information was not properly protected by a company and hackers got access to it or former employees and now are using it for nefarious means. Identity theft, we see individuals being spoofed or being imitated to gain access to data, and then certain surveillance concerns that may exist relating to the monitoring of individuals and companies. Some of the security challenges that arise, there's common security vulnerabilities, there's cyber methods, and the impact on individuals and organizations is in the billions of dollars annually. So it makes sense for companies to work together that maybe have gone under some of these challenges that have arisen over time. The access divide, so we have geographic disparities, economic barriers, educational gaps, and digital ingenuity and inequity. What happens is that oftentimes some geographic areas just do not have the same access to technology, may not have the same access to internet, although now with companies like Starlink, we are seeing the opportunity for internet to be available all over the planet. Certain economic barriers, some people just can't afford to buy the latest technologies. There's educational gaps where there's individuals that just don't know how to use or interface with the technology. And then there's clearly digital inequity where some individuals just don't have the means or the opportunity to get caught up technologically. The stakeholder responsibilities include the individual users, the organizations, the government bodies, and the providers of the technology. Applicable legal frameworks include the GDPR in the European Union, the CCPA in California, the international data protection laws that are around, and compliance requirements in different industries. Technical solutions could be to encrypt data and information that's shared, create authentication systems, dual layered security protocols, and privacy enhancing technologies. Some of the best practices for organizations is data minimization, security by design, regular audits to ensure that compliance is being maintained, and employee training. Some of the user education that can happen is relating to digital literacy, privacy awareness, security habits, and risk management. One of the biggest risks to companies is when users are uneducated and create vulnerabilities and may find themselves to be at the mercy of hackers because they made some unnecessary risk by clicking a link they shouldn't have clicked that was in their email. Encryption and privacy, how encryption works, end-to-end encryption, public key infrastructure, current challenges that exist, data collection ethics. There's consent mechanisms where individuals need initial or click off. There's transparency requirements to ensure that the processes that individuals are engaged in have a certain level of transparency. And then there's certain limitations relating on the purpose of data collection. And then retention policies that may exist from jurisdiction to jurisdiction that can impact the overall decision. The impact of social media is that there are certain platform policies, user behavior, privacy settings, and then content moderation that happens. So platforms have a lot of power to influence what individuals are doing and how they're treated. So there's often great criticism relating to that. The Internet of Things and privacy, there's connected devices, data collection points, security vulnerabilities, privacy implications. So when you're looking at connected technologies, there can be a lot of issues because a lot of data can be collected in monitoring just patterns of human beings, where they are, when, how often. Yeah. So if you're somebody that doesn't necessarily care but wants the technology, you may allow all the technology that's connected in your office, your home, to be also collecting data on you, and you may not even be aware that you're doing it. So we also want to look at what are some of the privacy implications when it comes to individual data and what data do they want to protect. And we also want to think about some of the mobile security relating to app permissions, location tracking, data sharing, mobile malware, and how individuals can protect themselves and their companies from being susceptible to these kind of vulnerabilities as they're moving in their day-to-day lives, and many of them may be operating remote. There's also the consideration of cloud computing and that there's data storage. There's certain service provider responsibilities, security measures that are placed based on the policies and procedures, and privacy concerns. Artificial intelligence, especially in communications, can be concerning because of privacy of data. It needs to absolutely be certain that it's not sharing any proprietary data that could severely impact somebody's life and the vulnerable information that they may not want out there. There's the ethical considerations with the AI because AI doesn't necessarily have ethics unless it's programmed in. Biometric data, this could include DNA, blood, fingerprints, the collection methods, which are physical or digital, storage security to ensure that they're properly being stored and are accurately depicting the biometric information, and then privacy risks that may exist in that data being breached or falling into the wrong hands. There's also children's privacy, so special protections, allowing parental controls, there being specific educational technology for their use, and then looking at different legal requirements. Corporate surveillance, the monitoring of employees, customer tracking, tracking where they're going, and it's something that's important for many companies and realizing that if they are to be sued and they have these logs, that usually these logs can be subpoenaed. So they just prefer to just shred the information that should no longer be available or protect through immense online security the data that could. um, influence how they monitor employees or track customers. Many companies are interested in knowing what their companies are up to and how their customers are behaving. Government surveillance, we see this in national security. It impacts our civil liberties. There's certain oversight mechanisms that exist in the government, but oftentimes the public has trust in the government that they will only do what's absolutely necessary when surveilling. Cross-border data flows, so there's international agreements of cooperation, especially between like Canada and the United States or other countries that are adjacent to each other. There's legal frameworks in place, privacy shields, and commercial implications, and how companies can work together not only for social security but for the benefit of all, for financial and other reasons. Future challenges are going to be emerging technologies. It's really hard to keep up with new technology, and it creates a new frontier of what needs to be done to ensure there's policies and procedures and laws that will govern. There's evolving threats that constantly come up, and regulatory needs as exist. Well, there's certain regulatory needs that are going to keep being put in place over time that the government's going to think about, and also certain industries that are going to focus on what are the regulatory frameworks. And then we also have the balance of innovation that will help in figuring out how can innovation be balanced with certain rights that exist related to privacy. Ethical frameworks, privacy by design, security principles, access, equality, and responsible innovation. We also think about policy improvements. How can they be improved? What are technical solutions to our challenges? Education initiatives, and what are some of the collaborative needs to come up with interdisciplinary offers to the challenges that they may be facing. We see case studies, notable breaches, success stories, lessons learned, and best practices. One of the best ways is to learn from the mistakes of others and what they've done in the past. It's really important to think about what are going to be some of the best practices, what should or shouldn't have been done in certain cases, and looking to reduce the future impact of these kinds of initiatives that are going to need to be focused on relating to privacy and overall influencing what are the best practices that need to be developed and maintained. In conclusion, there's a call for action. As things are changing, we have to change. As as privacy looks to be being eroded, it shouldn't be. It should be there as a protection for individual to protect themselves and to help them out of challenging situations, especially for employers or other organizations that are responsible for them. And then a future outlook, it looks like the future is very promising in the way it will allow for many opportunities to go off through the organization. And I believe it will continue to be very well supported, not only in the business community, but also in legal communities as we're looking for changes to be put forth in the future.